This is VK6ARN, Newswest. We are a community organisation and we've been serving up the best amateur radio news in Australia since 1931. Hi there, I'm Clinton, VK6FCRC, and welcome to Newswest. Now on with the news.
Hello from the WAVHF Group. Over the last few weeks, you have heard a lot about Operation Manna and Operation Chowhound and our role in commemorating their 80th anniversary. There will be updates from time to time, but suffice it to say we are getting to the pointy end of planning and things are going well. Today's item relates to the commemoration in that one avenue of communication in the event will be DMR. The Dutch team has secured an official Brandmeister talk group, number 98080, and 3 tactical talk groups which can be used to QSY away from the main calling group. They are 980801, 980802 and 980803. Details will be on QRZ. Programming code plugs after many years away from DMR has proven that yes, those hard-won early lessons paid off. Within the WAVHF group, and by the looks of things in the VK6 amateur community generally, there is traction for establishing a SCED of sorts, most likely on talk group 5056. This would keep DMR operational etiquette alive in operators' minds, and the DMR traffic flowing on VK6 RLM at least. Thanks to the WA Repeater Group for providing this facility. So, we are looking for a champion for establishing a SCED. That person does not need to be a member of the VHF group. Let us share the responsibility around for the benefit of our hobby. So those of you with DMR rigs, send a message to WA Hams to see who is interested. In the past, we have had an RTTY interest group, for example, and the ATV community remains well and truly alive. Let's do something to support DMR. Enjoy your week in amateur radio. This is Dennis, VK6AKR for the WA VHF Group Incorporated.
Foundations of Amateur Radio. Recently I received a question in relation to the Bold Yak project. If you're not familiar, the Bold Yak project aims to create a modular, bidirectional and distributed signal processing and control system that leverages GNU radio. I know I've said that several times now, and I suspect I'm going to say it several more times before we're done. I was asked about a specific radio, and if this project could make it use a frequency that the supplied software didn't cover. The answer is deceptively simple, and if you know me at all, you know what's coming. It depends. As with many things, what it depends on is not fixed. I'll come back to the question, but I'm making a diversion past a magical place, the local hardware store. You can buy everything you need to build a house, with the caveat that some assembly is required. GNU radio is similar for building a signal processing system, but, wait for it, some assembly is required. In the context of GNU radio, this means that you'll need to collect all the bits and wire them together. Fortunately, you're unlikely to need personal protective equipment or access to a first aid kit. Unless, of course, the idea of playing with computers gives you palpitations, in which case I'd recommend that you go see your doctor. One of the less obvious things you'll come across with GNU radio is how to bring signal processing into the physical realm. In other words, how do you get a signal into your computer, known as a source, and get it out, called a sink? The ability to talk to physical hardware arrives in roughly 3 different ways. Let's call them native, library, and abstraction. Native access requires that GNU radio already knows about the hardware out of the box. Library access requires that the hardware manufacturer has provided software libraries, also known as drivers, allowing GNU radio to communicate, and finally, abstraction is where a third party has written a library that knows how to talk to hardware from different manufacturers. The distinction between these is almost arbitrary. For example, abstraction might require a driver from a hardware manufacturer. Similarly, because all this software is open source, native can include software from other projects, like the RTL SDR blocks from Osmocom, open source mobile communications, and UHD blocks written by Attis Research, which in turn can be seen as an abstraction. As I said, some assembly required. I will point out that this provides a great deal of flexibility, albeit at the cost of complexity. There's still no such thing as a free lunch. At this point, you might shake your head and run away. I get that. It can be daunting. Before you do, consider the scenario where you have a working system and you upgrade your hardware. In GNU Radio world, you'll need to figure out how to configure the new hardware, and then all your other stuff will continue to work. The alternative is upgrading each of your applications to connect to your new radio, and in doing so, run the risk of making your old radio obsolete, even if you are collecting them, let's say, for posterity rather than hoarding, because radio amateurs never hoard anything, right? Back to the original question. Can GNU Radio make a radio use frequencies that the software that came with the radio cannot? As I said, it depends. First of all, the hardware needs to actually be able to support the frequency. Then someone needs to have written a library to use that frequency. Then GNU Radio needs to be able to use that library. That said, the chances of that happening are much higher than the chance of the hardware manufacturer rolling out this feature within your lifetime. Before you start yelling at me, yes, this is manufacturer dependent. Some provide open source tools, many still don't. There are alternative ways to access different frequencies. The Pluto SDR is a computer and radio in a box. You can connect to it, change some settings, and have it access a whole lot more frequencies. In some ways, it's like adding or removing jumpers on a traditional circuit board. Another approach is to use an up or down converter, essentially a piece of hardware connected between antenna and radio that translates frequencies to different bands. A down converter allows you to use the 23 centimeter band on a radio that's only capable of 70 centimeters. Similarly, an up converter allows your 70 centimeter radio to hear HF signals. If you see a symmetry here, you didn't imagine it. You need both to transmit and receive, sold together in the same box as a transverter. Just so we're clear, the radio is still using the 70 centimeter band, but the RF coming in and out of the antenna connected to the transverter is on a different band entirely. It's why my Yaesu FT857D has 3 menu options, 89, 90 and 91, to adjust the display to show the actual RF frequency. As an aside, you could use this functionality if your radio is off frequency by a known amount. As I've said before, GNU Radio is a powerful tool. It contains many different moving parts. The system is complex and unwieldy, but with it comes the promise of doing some amazing stuff. The whole point of the BoldYak project is to make this all accessible to the wider amateur community, not just computer geeks and software radio nerds. If you have questions, feel free to drop me a line. I'm Ono, Victor Kilo 6, Foxtrot Lima Alpha Bravo.
This is Newswest, your amateur radio news on VK6ARN, originating on the Newswest linked repeater network and HF relays.
On Tuesday afternoons and evenings, the 40 and 80 metre bands come alive with the sound of slow CW. Who would have thought that this ancient art, which some say was once such a dreaded part of the amateur licence test, would become so popular in these days of modern communications? The uncontrolled net is run in designated portions of the 2 bands to encourage new CW operators to have a go at slow CW in a safe and really friendly environment. Slow speed and lots of mistakes are par for the course. It's all about having a go, starting with a basic call sign and RST exchange, then over time getting better and better. The net also attracts its fair share of old-timers who enjoy helping others to have a go or to just enjoy the banter. The CQQRS net started in Western Australia 3 years ago and has been running every single Tuesday and has been unbelievably popular. The net runs from 3 p.m. until about 7 p.m. on 40 metres, then moves to 80 metres, and we've had up to 60 stations on air having a go. And who knows how many listeners are out there every Tuesday as well. So the CQ QRS net is on 40 metres between 0700 Zulu and 1100 Zulu, that is 3 p.m. until 7 p.m, and is held between 7020 and 7040 kHz. Then between 0900 Zulu and 1300 Zulu, which is 5 p.m. until 9 p.m, we're on between 3540 and 3570 kHz every Tuesday. There's no net control, so when you're ready to have a go, just find a quiet spot and start calling CQ QRS at about 75% of the speed you can copy. Most stations will match your speed, so go slow until you're really comfortable with CW. So this might be just the opportunity you've been waiting for to have a go at transmitting on CW, or perhaps just to stop the contacts rusting up on your key. Doesn't matter whether you're brand new to the code, or if you're an old-timer who would like to have a bit of fun and help encourage new operators by having simple, safe QSOs at their speed. We'd love to have you join in. Too much switch mode power supply hash on 80 metres? This might be the incentive to do something about it. With a cheap noise canceller costing less than $100, 80 metres could be easier than you think. So again, the net starts at 3 p.m. every Tuesday above the DX segment on 40 metres between 7020 and 7040. Then, after 7 p.m, moves to 80 metres between 3540 and 3570 kHz. There are usually stations in the west, east and in between listening out for your CQ QRS call. For more information and to receive our free weekly CQ QRS RagTune newsletter, contact me, Mark, VK6QI, via the email on qrz.com, or you can use our address cqqrsnet@gmail.com. That is cqqrsnet@gmail.com, and I'll be pleased to have a chat.
Hi, just a little note about VK6RRG and the WAG Technical and General Net. Having it run every Sunday morning on VK6RLM, that's 146.750, or Channel 3 in the old money. And it starts at 10:30 a.m. this morning. Of course, if you're listening in the evening, it's next week.
Good morning once again. This is Roy, VK6 X-Ray Victor. This week's helpline, the 23rd of March, 2025. Today I have the confession I've missed one for the last couple of weeks. Sorry, Tony. I have one here from Tony, VK6 Alpha Tango India. It's an Edirol model Uniform Alpha 25 Echo X-Ray USB audio capture interface. 24-bit or 96 kilohertz operating frequency, rate of operation, whichever way you want to look at it. Price $200. Edirol, that's Echo Delta India Romeo Oscar Lima. Model Uniform Alpha 25 Echo X-Ray USB audio capture interface, 24-bit 96 kilohertz. Price $200 or nearest offer. And item 2 is a Behringer Composer Pro XL audio interface dynamic processor model Mike Delta X-Ray 2600. Price on that one is $140 or nearest offer. For those items, please contact Tony on his mobile 0472 608 523, 0472 608 523, or email to aussiebroadband.com.au. That's Alpha Uniform Sierra Sierra India Echo Bravo Romeo Oscar Alpha Delta Bravo Alpha November Delta at .com.au. Next item comes from Greg. It's a Yaesu Fox Tango Mike 300 Delta Romeo 2 meter 70 centimeter dual band digital transceiver, new, unused, still in the box. Have receipts from Andrew's Communication asking $550. Please phone Greg on his mobile 0417 900 874. Again 0417 900 874. And that's Greg, VK6 Echo Delta. Wanted, we're looking for a HM151 ICOM microphone and keypad. Anyone got one spare? Please contact Tim, VK6 Echo India, and he'll love to hear from you if you can spare that microphone a HM151. And all I have after that is all stuff from last week, like a Gold Star oscilloscope, a frequency counter, a valve tester, and heavy-duty mobile spring-based antenna, whip-based antennas, and they're from Ron, VK6 Alpha Romeo Echo, 0477 662 817. I'll say again, 0477 662 817. That's me for this week. Thank you once again for listening. This is Roy VK6X-Ray Victor. My email address, vk6xrayvictor@bigpond.com. 73.
Hi there, it's Clinton, VK6FCRC, back with you. And did you know that Newswest is now on YouTube? Type in youtube.com/@Newswest weekly podcast Kilo Zulu 7 Yankee Charlie. Oh, and before I go, I'd like to thank those watching on YouTube or ATV, the readers, and you for listening. I'd also like to thank our team, the broadcasters, and those submitting content each week. Please stand by now for callbacks after the broadcast, or head over to the VK6.net website and fill out the forms so we know how many people are listening each week.